Hi, welcome back to the Blank LP for Eagle Eye Mysteries in London. We are here on another case. We are going to take on the case of the Crumbling Castle. So let's begin. Heads up, Jennifer and Starkaze. I've got a top secret case that you won't be able to resist. What is it, Aunt Miranda? Mr. Sneed, the head of the librarian at the British Library at the British Museum, just called. He just received an ancient scroll that may prove that a real King Otter was born at Tintagel Castle? King Otter? Wow, I always thought that he was just a story. Sometimes a legend has its footing in facts. If this turns out to be the real thing, I'll have the scoop of the year. Sneed's an old chum of your Uncle Basil's, so he called me first with his news. No one else has the story yet, so be careful not to spill the beans.
Let's go!
Let's go check it out, Starkaze. Uncle Basil got here before us. He loves a good story. I bet he's cooking something up for one of his novels. Shall we talk to Uncle Basil first? Hello, Jennifer Starkaze. Your Aunt Miranda asked me to come down here to see what stories I could dig up on King Otter. Funny topic. Wonder what she wants with all these old tales. The Arthurian stories are set in the distant past, but they're not really history. They're legends, tales that may or may not be true, handed down by storytellers and dressed up by writers in later centuries. They are lovely stories, full of magic and adventure. It would be marvelous if they were all true, but legends are almost always just terrific tales, not real historical events. Your American tales of Paul Bunyan are legends. There may once have been a lumberjack named Paul Bunyan, but it is highly unlikely that he was 50 feet tall and had a giant blue ox named Babe lumbering about with him. The tricky part is separating the kernel of truth from the mountain of fiction. Sometimes historical heroes and heroines become so famous or popular that many exciting stories are woven about them. Just because some of the stories are made up, like the story of King Otter pulling a magic sword from a stone, doesn't mean that a real person like Otter never existed. Let's talk to Mr. Sneed. I'm not too sure about all this. It all sounds a bit fishy to me. Mysterious packages from unknown senders, and the whole bit about Otter being a real king. No one's ever been sure of that. I suspect a fraud. The package came with no written address, and the postmark was so smudged I couldn't make out from where it was sent. But if this scroll does turn out to be real, then it may prove not only that Otter really lived, but that he was born in the castle of Tintagel. I need to find out how to pronounce that. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. It's pronounced as Tintagel. Okay, let's take a look at the scroll. The scroll that Mrs. Snip received. The scroll says, I, wizard and friend to His Majesty Arthur Pendragon, do proclaim the birth of the child Otter in the great castle at Tintagel. Find Merlin in this year of our Lord 1032. Hey, whoever wrote this scroll can't spell very well. Wouldn't a wizard have been pretty smart? A wizard, if there ever was such a thing, would have been a very clever fellow indeed, But what we see here are necessarily misspellings. In 1032, English was a very different language than our modern English. A lot of those old words would look misspelled to you and I. For example, that F in the word majesty. It's really a fanciful way of writing the letter S. It simply looks more like an F to us. I see. English has changed a lot in 1,000 years, but I suspect that if this scroll was authentic, it would be even more difficult for us to read than this. I see. How about this? Wow, there sure are a lot of stories about the adventures of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. You should grab one of these books when we get back to the States. They're excellent. Maybe we should talk to Mr. Buckley, the museum's curator. His office is down here. I need to check on how to pronounce that too. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. It seems to be pronounced as Buckley. Mr. Buckley works with a lot of historical stuff in the museum. I bet he knows something about King Arthur. And this one? Mr. Buckley has always been flawed when it comes to romantic notions. His fascination with King Arthur has always surprised me. Not the sort of thing you'd expect in a curator of such a famous museum. I'd expect that kind of fanciful drivel to be more along the lines of that so-called Professor Mathan. His latest book is all about Arthur and the wild stories built around him, you know. It's just the sort of thing Buckley loves. Still, I can hardly believe he appealed to that fanatic Stalls for support. Stalls is the head of that mad bunch of travel bags who call themselves the Knights of the Modern Round Table. They're always dressing up in armor and putting on tournaments at the local fairs. I sometimes think they do just about anything for attention, but I suppose they make a pretty penny off those Jews and all the souvenirs they sell. I've always loved the old stories of the Knights of the Round Table. Those legends represent the most romantic time in Britain's past. The Knights of the Round Table were supposed to be the strongest and the fiercest warriors of the day. They could have been bullies, but instead they lived by the code of chivalry. I've heard that before. What does it mean? Chivalrous knights or people who use their strength to protect the weak or defenseless, not pick on them. Chivalry demands that a knight be courteous, brave, loyal, and generous. It's always been a pet peeve of mine that the museum, the British Museum, doesn't have an exhibit that shows off this wonderful age in Britain's history. But our tales But are the tales of Camelot and King Arthur really part of history, or are they just stories? That really is the problem. If it were ever proven that Arthur was a true king and the legends were based in solid fact, I could get a grant to open an Arthurian exhibit here at the museum. He has a motive. He has a motive. Oh, that's 2 places to go. David Stahl publishes nightlife from his shop here at Covent Garden. Let's see what he has to say about King Arthur. I've been interested in King Arthur since I was a lad. That's why I opened this shop. I've always known that the old tales were true, so this new finding was no surprise to me. What new finding is that, Mr. Stalls? Haven't you heard? They've discovered an old ancient scroll written by the great wizard. How does he know? It was supposed to be kept secret, right? By the great wizard Merlin that reveals the truth about King Arthur. I'm sure it'll be in the papers soon. They'll do wonders for the business around here. It's just the sort of thing that will perk up interest in medieval times. People will flock here to pick up their authentic Tintagel collector's plates and spoon sets. The scroll proves that Arthur was born at Tintagel, just like the legends say. Wouldn't you like to pick up a miniature Tintagel castle model while you're about? They won't last. No, it's okay. He's suspicious too. Oh, I'm traveling. Where shall I travel to? We can talk to Professor Mayton at Oxford, or take the train to Tintagel to check out the castle. What do you think, Starkaze? I'll talk to the professor first. Oxford, great. I bet we can catch Professor Mayton in his classroom. He's supposed to be an expert on old stories and legends. If anyone knows anything about King Arthur, it'll be him. Professor Mayton, we've heard that you just wrote a book about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Do you think those stories might be real? The door just opened and closed. Okay. I'd love to believe those stories about King Arthur were true, Jennifer, but it's not very likely. The tales of King Arthur are very popular, partly because they're filled with magic and hero deeds, but no one has ever found any proof of a real King Arthur. In all my studies, the closest I've ever come is a little mention in the Easter Annals. I think so. I have a translation here on my desk. But even the Easter Annals don't call Arthur a king. He's mentioned as a great hero and warrior, not a ruler. Legends are often built around real people, even in more modern times. I've heard a story about your President Washington tossing a coin across a river called the Potomac. Yeah, I've heard that one. Now, President Washington was a real man, but I doubt very much that he was strong enough to toss a coin across a huge river like that. I suspect that there was indeed a great warrior called Arthur once. He may have won great victories in ancient times. Perhaps he even became a powerful king. In any case, he made such an impression on his people that they created these wonderful stories about him. The tales about Arthur have grown and grown, so that now the name King Arthur is known throughout the English-speaking world. That's why I expect my book will do so well. those legends are as popular today as they've ever been. Of course, I imagine that if we could prove that King Otter really did exist, my book would sell even better. But he doubts the existence, so... The Easter Annals are calendars created by monks almost 1400 years ago to mark when Easter occurred that year. In the margins of the calendars, the monks noted the important events of that year. I'm gonna let you read this quietly. Okay, see here. He won great battles in 518 AD and killed in 541 AD in a battle. These passages in the Easter Annals are the only proof we have that a great leader named Otter existed. If he truly was a historical figure, he must have lived in the 6th century AD. But these notes all talk about the 500s. That's right, the calendar we use separates dates by the birth of Christ. The time before Christ is called BC, before Christ. The time after Christ's birth is called AD, from the Latin Anno Domini, or in the year of the Lord. We count our centuries beginning with Christ's birth also. The years 1 to 100 made up the 1st century AD. Any year between 501 to 600 would be part of the 6th century. That's why even though we live in the 1900s, we say we live in the 20th century. Okay. Cool. Oh no. See if you can find Tintagel on your map of England. Then click on the compass point marked E if we need the eastbound train to get from London, or W if we hop on the westbound train. Maybe the people who got this and the time this was released gets a map of England too? Probably. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. I think it's on the west. That's right. Tintagel is way down in Cornwall on the west coast. We'll take the westbound train to get there from London. Nice song. Wow, look at this place. Can't you just picture what it must have looked like hundreds of years ago, filled with knights and ladies of the court? Souvenirs, get your souvenirs here. Guidebooks, maps, authentic stones from King Otter's birthplace. King Otter's birthplace, are you sure? As sure as a man can be about a filling in his bones. I couldn't prove it, no one has yet, but I'm sure that old Tintagel was a true Camelot, where Otter made his home. Where there's smoke, there's fire, as they say. That means that all stories are usually based on a little bit of truth. I think this place makes as fine a setting for the stories of Merlin, Otter, and Guinevere. I think it's pronounced as Guinevere, I'm not sure, as any. The guidebook says Tintagel Castle was built in about 1145 AD. No wonder it's practically crumbled away. It's almost 900 years old. It says here that all those little tiny rooms down there are the remains of an old Celtic monastery. Creepy. I bet this place is really spooky after dark. It says here that no proof has ever been found to back up the legend that King Arthur was born here. Whoever wrote this guidebook thinks that legend was made up by medieval writers with great imaginations. Okay, you may read this. Oh, is that all? Yep, that seems to be all. Okay, guess we'll have to solve it. We'll go back to the British Museum. It's getting tougher. But I guess they're going for the not real route. So that guy was suspicious. Mr. Stalls. See here. No one should know about the story. Where is Mr. Stoltz? Yes, David Stoltz. Mr. Stoltz says he heard this. The Tintagel castle is suspicious because it was built much later after he died, the author. Okay, and I need the one where he... This one. If you think the scroll is real, pick King Arthur. If you think the scroll is a fake, pick the person you think sent it to Mr. Sneed. Mr. Stalls.
You got it!
You got it. That ancient scroll was a fake. Mr. Stalls wrote it himself as a publicity stunt. The scroll that Mr. Sneed got in the mail appeared to be signed by Merlin the Magician. It said that King Arthur was born in 1032 AD at the castle of Tintagel. But the guidebook we got at Tintagel says that the castle wasn't even built until about 1143 AD, over 100 years later. Mr. Sneed has his suspicions about the scroll he received in the mail. That's why he decided not to tell anyone about it except Aunt Miranda. But when we went to talk to Mr. Stalls in Covent Garden, he knew all about the scroll and had even stocked up his store with Tintagel souvenirs. He must have sent the fake scroll to the British Library himself. Okay, and we're done for the mystery this time around. So we'll get the next mystery. Okay, let's check out what's the next mystery first. Okay, we'll be doing Case of the Pilfered Phone in the next episode. So thank you for watching and goodbye.